Welcome everybody to another episode of Three Dad Bods with Brent, Carl, and Sean. How you guys doing?
Good.
Fantastic.
Wonderful.
So let's get a little follow-up, Sean. I know you had your quote-unquote eye bandages removed. How you doing? How you feeling? How's it looking?
So they removed the eye bandages and things are normal. So the vision in my right eye is still improving, but yeah, it is what it is. So they're a little sensitive still, but I guess that's normal.
Was it painful when they took that off, or like Carl was wondering, like,
No.
is it gonna stick? No, it just popped right out.
Yeah.
No,
That's
she
good, man.
stuck
That's
her
good.
fingers in my eyes and just pulled them right out. Yeah.
That's good.
So your eyeball didn't pop out, Sean? It didn't
No.
fall out on the table?
No eyeball
That's
popped
good.
out.
That's
which
good.
I am very happy about.
I never got over fifth grade spook alley when I felt eyeballs in the
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
So is it as good as advertised though? You're starting to see sharply.
Yeah.
2020.
Yeah.
Oh, that must be cool, man.
Yeah, it is. It's fun to wake up in the morning and actually be able to see stuff. So
yeah. Well, my voice is finally getting better, so
you go get your puberty finally.
I was going to say, let's just hope, Sean, that your wife doesn't ever get the surgery because she may leave you.
She would. She would.
Maybe a shave this morning would be nice, but
shave?
Whatever.
Why would I?
Well, anyway, when you're bald like me,
you do have that smoothness. I mean, like you did go full out shave, didn't you, Carl? Like you shaved like a full entire circumference of the moon right there.
It's like the baby's butt. Yeah, it looks nice. Anyway,
that's not the baby's butt I've ever seen. That's far worse.
Yeah. Speaking of, you still like to be cozy with it, Sean. I can tell.
Hey, did you guys see this week this Tahara guy that the FBI raided? And he basically 21-year-old kid that the FBI raided, and he's exposing these basically where we had military troops in the Ukraine, where we've been told over and over and over again, no, we don't have military troops there. But did you guys see that break? The FBI crashing that in this week?
The guard, he was in the National Guard, and
he looks like he's 17 years old.
Yeah,
he's 21. Okay, and so when I first saw this, I don't know if you remember, there was that movie back in the 90s where a guy was set up to look like a terrorist, and it's almost like they placed him in certain situations, but he wasn't there, and like this building ended up blowing up, and then they accused him for the whole. Do y'all remember that?
Yeah, there's been a couple movies like that, but yeah, I think I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, so like I'm looking at this thing, some 21-year-old kid that nobody knows who it is, and suddenly this it's an instant rampage and a boom and everything like that, and they're saying, well, they've got this and they got that and they got this, and I was listening to in fact, Carl, you sent over a link on AI stuff in that Joe Rogan show where like it was completely done out of AI, never was made at all, was completely set up and put together, and it was like, wow. I mean, what can you even believe?
Well,
there's
days? already guys on YouTube. Well, this story you're talking about, he also had some friends on Discord. He was a gamer, and so he was in the National Guard. He works for a intelligence unit in the National Guard. But they were interviewing a guy that used to work for a CIA team. I don't know, some random probably right wing, of course, because anything that tells the truth is right wing these days. But he was talking about who gets this type of information. This kid had like all kinds of stuff, like troop movement for Russians and stuff that normal people in his position would never get. And now there's a conspiracy theory going around that this was intentionally leaked through this guy, and there's something going on. So either it's misinformation to the Russians to confuse them, or we got some really bad shit going on in our Pentagon where we can't control our intelligence, which I highly doubt. So that's why I kind of believe it. Maybe it is a conspiracy. Maybe there is something going on. This kid's the fall guy.
Honestly, there's
Sean?
probably a decent chance that either of those is correct. Honestly, I mean, it could be misinformation. It could be true. I mean, who's to know? I mean, I don't think the government's above putting out misinformation to trip up other foreign countries, and I mean, part of know.
How do we know this hasn't been totally made up? I mean, I I surprised Brent the other day. Do you remember that, Sean? I sent you a copy of the media file where I totally made up Brent's voice in terms of something he really didn't say about how he loved BYU and how he wants to go there someday.
If I ever heard that, I would know that. I know that he would never say that. Even in jest, he would never say that.
Well, here's what I wanted to do. I wanted to actually show this. This is a technology that exists right now. Just came out in the last few months. And I want you guys to see if you can tell the difference. So I'm going to play. They're only 18 seconds each. So I'm going to play Brent's real voice and Brent's
don't
voice,
tell us though. Don't tell us which is which. One
you guys.
Don't
tell
us.
I won't.
Yeah.
So here I go. All right. All right. 3, 2, 1.
More and more. It's a tale of two cities. And you're seeing the Memphis diagram more and more across the country. You're seeing the defunding of police officers. You're seeing the push to have so. I mean, can you imagine if a social worker went into this situation? Like a lot of people.
Okay, that's the first one. Here we go. Here's another one.
It's a tale of two cities. And you're seeing the Memphis diagram more and more across the country. You're seeing the defunding of police officers. You're seeing a push to have I mean, can you imagine if a social worker went into this situation?
Okay. So those were the two. Sean, which one was him? Which one was Brent?
I'm going to go with the first one was Brent, and the second one was AI. And the only reason I'm saying that is because I think that the recording quality on the second one was better.
Okay.
I agree with Sean.
Brent, what do you think?
Yeah. That's exactly what I thought. Yeah, that's exactly what I thought.
And you know what? You both are incorrect. The first one was Brent's AI voice. The second one was his real voice.
Are you kidding me? Wow.
No. Isn't that scary?
That's trippy.
It is. And it really sets your mind. So, do you guys know what the fairness doctrine is?
No,
actually, familiar.
So back in 1954, the FCC passed the fairness doctrine, which basically said the news must report the facts. They have to report the facts, and that's where we had our Walter Cronkite, and the people that people watch the news and believe the news. Well, in 1987, the fairness doctrine was reversed based on quote unquote free speech. Basically saying, you know what? They can say whatever they want. It's a part of free speech. It's up to the people to discern what's truth and what's fact. And when you think about it, before 1987, the only 24-hour networks that you had was ESPN and MTV. There was no CNNs and MSNBC and Fox News and everybody else, Bloomberg TV and all this stuff. And so when that began, we now started to get our our television inundated with all these quote unquote 24-hour newscasts that could basically be taken from a higher up source to put thoughts and ideas into everybody's heads. And as humans by nature, we will gravitate towards the things that fit our mindset and our agenda. Like, oh, he said that. Well, that's it. I got to follow that. It's got to be truth. It's on there, you know? And now, you know, and especially with like what you just played right there, how do you know what's true? How do you know what's real anymore?
Well, so this is just being released as released. I don't know if that's even the right word, but used as a publicly available technology. I really doubt, honestly, I doubt very much that this has just been created and ready for public
not
use.
At all.
This is the sort of thing that's probably been out there for a while and is just to the point where maybe it can't be, I don't want to say hidden because that sounds like a conspiracy, but you know, it becomes known. And so, yeah, you know what, we need to start selling this or whatever.
And think about this.
Here's an interesting question.
Think about this though.
Brett.
Yeah. Like, imagine somebody listens to our podcast. They take my voice, okay? They look at something like maybe me on Facebook or whatnot, and they find my mom, okay? 93-year-old woman. And they use that same thing and call her and use my voice saying, hey, Mom, I'm in jail. I need some money for bail. Can you send over $500 as soon as possible? I mean, this is a real thing that is happening today, right now. And you wouldn't know.
To a lady and her daughter.
If you sent that, Carl, to my mom just like that, she would absolutely think anybody would think that's absolutely me.
Yeah, but here's the thing about that, Brent. She wouldn't send the money. She'd let you rot.
Not his mom. His mom's nice.
That's true. Your mom would.
Yeah, my dad would. He'd be like, yeah, he can rot in jail. I don't have any money anyway. No, that actually scenario, Brent, just happened in Florida. And you know what's funny? This happened to so this is a story that actually happened to my son and my ex-father-in-law. This was not too long ago, and this didn't involve fake voices or anything, but there are groups in Africa and other locations throughout the world that will buy information like phone numbers of every military member, and they will skip trace their parents or grandparents. And then, like in my case, my father-in-law got the call, and basically, you know, he was told that my son was in jail and that they needed $500 immediately to release him. And so he sent $500 through a, I don't know, you have to do a TransUnion or, you know, through Smith's, through that Western Union thing. And, you know, and so he lost $500. And this is something that's going to get worse now. And Brent's right. Could you imagine if there's a video of you in duress with your voice and it's totally fake and your parents are getting this? And I don't care if they're 90 or 65, if maybe even 50, you know,
today
at 53, I'd be concerned. Yeah. So you don't know. I mean, you think you can figure this stuff out? We just showed you that both of you, even Brent, couldn't figure out who his real voice was, which is seriously scary. So, Sean, you brought up conspiracy. That's a good question. You know, you made it sound like it's a bad word or a swear word, but there are a lot of conspiracies out there from the past. And I've always wanted to have another shot at Brent when it comes to the 9/11 conspiracy, because I've been one that thinks that conspiracies are a kind of a swear word. But then on the other hand, in the last year or two, I'm starting to change my tune a little bit. So I'd love to have a conversation with you two about conspiracies and see where you guys are both at.
I can tell you that
Tower 7. Tell me how Tower 7 collapsed. That's all you got to do.
7.
And then I will say, okay, it was correct. A tower that's 3 blocks away just suddenly collapsed.
Bush blew them all up.
Yeah.
So where are the people in the airplanes, Brent? That's what I want to know. Where did they take them?
I don't know. And how does at the Pentagon, if an airplane is coming down, it's coming on an angle, not on a straight shot level plane. I mean, there's so many things. The plane didn't come out the other side. 2 buildings implode the exact same way, straight down. And again, Tower 7 collapses. If you can explain how Tower 7 collapses 3 blocks away, I might listen to you.
Well, let's go through some of them, and then I'll ask fake or conspiracy or true, and then we'll stop and talk about the ones that we disagree on. So, number 1, this is from Esquire magazine. They're talking about the top 20 conspiracies of all time, and some people today still think these are true in 2023. The moon landing was fake. Sean, what do you think?
No, I think it's real.
Okay. Brett?
100% fake.
Oh, yeah, we're going to stop right here. Okay. I think they are true. We did land on the moon. Brent, you have the floor, baby. Tell us why it's fake.
Why do we have a space station? Why isn't there not stations on the moon? Knowing man, especially white males, and their territorial dominance, we would have Boca Raton moon landing sitting up there right now if that was a true
Raton.
The other thing is we're way too, this was before us when this happened, but there was a huge push and pressure and dominance from the Soviets, who were so close to being able to launch, but they just could not do it. And there was no way that the Americans were going to allow the Soviets to go there before we did. And so they couldn't get it done. They had equally as smart people. I don't see how we suddenly got up there, went up there, then never just went back up again.
Okay, well, I want some hard evidence that you have that proves that we did not land on the moon. Because there is hard evidence that can prove that we did.
What's the hard evidence?
You can use with a telescope. You can actually look at the sites. They actually have reflections from. Okay. Yes, you can.
Hold on.
I'll show.
Hold on. Okay. We just started the show by saying that people could be placed in objects and stuff like that. You don't think inside of a movie set that they could have? Oh, look, we're looking into the telescope
on the moon.
Here's a footprint.
We're going to send a rocket ship to set up a movie set on the moon?
No, I'm talking about in a studio. In a studio, you could make it look like that.
You're talking about Capricorn 1. That was a movie in Hollywood, bro. That was landing on Mars.
What telescopic proof has ever been done? You can't look at a telescope and see like a car up there or like.
No, they have actual machinery. The rover, you can actually see a reflector that they put intentionally on the surface of the moon because of guys like you who aren't going to believe that they actually landed on the moon. Okay, Sean, help me out here. You're being quiet. You're a believer in the moon landing.
I'm a little. Oh my gosh, this is interesting. So I'm. First of all, you cannot see anything on the moon. We can't see. Okay, I'm in the middle here. I'm in the middle here. You can't see this.
I convinced him.
You can't see the moon landing site from a telescope.
Just get a telescope.
No, you can't. No, you can't do that.
No.
I can look it up on Google. And
look it up on the Google machine because I'm telling you, you're wrong. And Brent is all.
All right, there's follow-ups on these episodes, so we'll follow up on that.
I just don't think that you can get.
I convinced him.
See, folks, this is how conspiracies like squirm into the cracks of really intelligent people.
It's logic, though. You have to use logic.
So,
all right, here we go. Hey, okay,
hold on. I do think that conspiracies are generally born out of some truth. There is some truth involved in most conspiracies. But I also
unanswered questions.
Okay. All right. Well, okay. Let's talk. Let's talk about one that I really do believe is a conspiracy, because there's so many unanswered questions. The government killed JFK.
So I'm on board with that. I do think the government killed him.
100%.
I do too.
Back to the background of the situation. He was fixing to move everything away from Cuba.
Yep.
He was. I mean, there were so many things
Vietnam.
that he
didn't want.
Absolutely did not want that at all.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And then,
well, I think LBJ. Yeah.
Well, and then Harvey Oswald getting killed too. I mean, let's just eliminate all the evidence.
Right.
Well, I watched that show you told me to watch, Sean.
Oh, JFK the movie?
Yeah, the Stone movie. Yeah. I mean, I've got to admit, and I did a little independent research on my own after watching the show. Lee Harvey Oswald, he was employed by the CIA.
Yeah.
I mean, it's pretty obvious. I mean, based on all the stuff that's out there that you can read up on. The question is, Jack Ruby, what I mean, how all of a sudden, and some people say that he was employed by the CIA to take out Lee Harvey Oswald so he wouldn't flap about why he shot, why he was. I don't know. Was he a fake? Was he just part of a prop?
I think he's the second shooter. I think he's the second shooter.
He could.
So you think he was a second shooter?
Yeah.
You think there is a shooter on the grassy knoll?
There's two. You look at two different angles when you slow it down. There's two different shots.
There's no way. There's no way that I mean, you go to the Seinfeld episode that mocks it. There's no way.
Yeah, the spit.
There's just no way that
Keith Hernandez,
the physical body can move in the directions that it moves on film without there being two shooters. You can't. So,
well, let me ask you a question. If JFK would have lived, how different would the world be right now?
Well, there wouldn't have been a prolonged Vietnam War.
You believe that?
Yeah, I do. Because
it's hard. It's honestly hard to say because the president is 1/3 of everything. Yes, I agree that there would have been a different stance towards it, but the president is 1/3 of the fraction of the government. So his strong push was against it. His strong push was against Cuba. It's hard to say, but I think that our thoughts. And yes, I do think that the Vietnam War, like Sean said, would have been I don't know if it would have different. Stopped it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would have been different.
I intentionally used the word prolonged because it would have been there. It just wouldn't have been, I don't think they pulled out of Vietnam until the early 70s, right? 71, 72, something like that. So,
well, I think there is a group of people in this country, and sometimes I've put myself in this group, that believe that there is a military complex or industrial complex that does have a say in what happens in this country.
Well, look at history.
And they're doing it right now as we speak.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Follow the money. Yeah. I mean, how much money is
absolutely
on this stuff?
Yeah. We destroy, we build up contracts, everything like that. And you look at from World War I into World War II, into the Korean War, into Vietnam, and it's just one after another. Like there's always a new enemy that's created. It's the Germans, it's the Japanese, it's the Arabs, it's the Ukrainians, it's the Russians. It's there's always somebody.
Well, I think part of the thing with Kennedy when he was assassinated, it was shortly after the Bay of Pigs, and I think that some people were thinking that it was Fidel, getting him back. But the reality is, I don't think Fidel had any shot at getting Kennedy, really. I think it was an opportunity for someone deep in government to get Kennedy, because there were some other things that they were ticked off at him about. His brother Bobby was super progressive, and I know was very anti-military as far as the big industrial complex. So I think with you and Brent said that the Vietnam War would have been a lot less of a factor, or it wouldn't have been as big a deal as it became. I think you're right. I think that is exactly true. And getting rid of John Kennedy and Bobby Kennedy kind of paved the way so that they could have a bigger war than they really needed. So, in fact, if we hadn't had Kennedy hadn't died, then, I mean, where would have all that great rock and roll music of the late 60s gone, right? So I'm not saying that's a good thing that he died, but, I mean, our whole world changed.
I don't think it was all based on...
I don't know if... I honestly don't know.
I think there's a lot of it that came from that.
If Bobby hadn't been assassinated, I really don't know if there would have been a Vietnam War. I mean, that was like an absolute no-go with him.
I believe 100% that he would have been elected president if he hadn't been assassinated. So I'm with Brand. I think that there would have been definitely some different things because of him. And, LBJ was, he's about as corrupt individual as we've ever seen in American history. And there's no denying.
LBJ is a puppet. LBJ is a
evil.
puppet.
He was an evil man. So
yeah.
I mean,
well, you could say that about George Bush too. I think
he was a puppet.
You could say about all of them.
I mean,
honestly, of them have been puppets.
Honestly, since Calvin Coolidge, I think they've all been a little bit of puppets, to be honest. So. But that's the libertarian in me, so I don't trust any of them.
I think this one we got to be careful of, guys, so we don't get delisted as soon as we become a new podcast. But COVID was engineered by the media. That's number 3 one they have in their article.
No, not by the media.
No, I do. The one thing that I am not happy about was when COVID first started. Remember, everybody was starting to die in China, and they had these crazy pictures of people in spacesuits taking people out in tubes, and you're just like, holy crap, what's going on? I remember that they at first they thought it came from a lab, and then they tried to tell us that no, it was actually from bats, and then anybody that disagreed with that line of reasoning, though, over the next year and a half, was almost like an apostate from some church, and literally would be burned at the stake in the media if they dared
proclaim
that this was possibly a virus that was created in a lab. So I guess my feeling is
from bats from the.
I just think it's someone that screwed up, made a real big mistake, and they're covering their butts. And it became a conspiracy because of all the misinformation and lying and bullshit that occurred after.
Yeah,
it became a control factor.
It's I don't know. I know
that too.
What I know is that a lot of people got genuinely sick, and it was really sad, and a lot of people died that shouldn't have died. My own wife was hospitalized with it, so it's. The people that say that it wasn't a real disease are, I think, nuts. I think it was definitely a legitimate disease. The source of it, who knows? I don't know, but
I don't think I don't think anybody disputes.
You can agree that it was.
I don't think anybody disputes that it was a sickness. A very serious illness that people had. I don't think anybody disputes that, because I think everybody's known somebody or has very close, or even themselves has experienced what has happened. I think, like you're talking about,
I never had it.
Where it came from, how it came from, why we did what we did. That's a whole other separate issue right there. Because there's a large faction of people that can be easily manipulated. It's just the way that it is. It's because of the way we're brought up in school.
Yeah.
You're taught this. It's in it. It's true. You don't question. You move on. It works in religions. It works in cults, and it works as we saw in the U.S. government. If I told you in 19
and I'm going to go through some of these kind of fast because I don't really think we need to go into them too deeply. But the Earth has been sucked into a black
weird
hole.
And dumb.
So, well, this one is kind of interesting because I don't know. Did you guys ever hear of the God particle, the Higgs boson, the CR? It's called CERN. It was that big old loopy. They shoot protons around and create black holes. Well, okay. And so everything that, I don't believe it either, Sean. I'm just saying that's what they
black
wrote.
Hole, when it pulls something into it, it is completely destroyed. It's dumb.
Takes light away.
Okay, so we're all in agreement.
Yeah.
That's not a conspiracy, right? Or that's not true. All right. Disney created Frozen as a distraction.
A distraction of what?
In other words, Walt Disney's Frozen.
Oh.
Well, he's frozen. Walt, you haven't heard that before? Walt Disney's they froze Walt Disney.
Cryogenically.
Bring him back later.
What? To make more movies?
I don't know. Well, obviously they can't make movies nowadays, right? They suck at
there
movies.
Is a business in Scottsdale, Arizona that will cryogenically freeze either your body or just your head if you pay them to do it, so that you can be brought back to life someday when the technology exists. That's the claim. And so I think there are some people up there. It's
so they just have your head in a
I don't know where they
what?
put it, but they cryogenically freeze it and preserve it.
Right.
There's a baseball player. I think it might be. I think it might be Lou Gehrig is up there. His head is up there. There's some people that are up there that are well known. Some celebrities, and you'll have to look it up. So that's true. So
could you imagine the money you'd have to have in your estate?
You know who it is, John? It's Ted Williams.
And cryogenic cost.
Ted Williams.
It's Ted Williams.
Ted Williams.
Yeah, I was just remembering that when you said that, because I remember his grandkids and all that were trying to get
so
fighting over it. Yeah.
So Sean, 100 years from now, it's 2123. All of a sudden, your eyes open. You look down, and you're just this machine. And then you look in the mirror, and that's your head, like you look right now. I mean, what would you think?
Yeah, that's trippy. I mean, I don't believe that that's a possibility, but and nor do I think that Frozen was made as a way to distract from that. Why? What's the point of trying to distract from having Disney's head frozen? It's something that can be done.
Cares?
It's something that is done. Who cares?
It's false. All right, this one will make you guys laugh. I never knew this before I read this article. The Denver International Airport is the Illuminati's
I had heard that
headquarters.
before. Yeah,
I've heard that many times.
Yeah.
Have you really?
Yeah.
Oh, I hadn't.
There's a lot of stuff that's underneath and where they built it and like the shape of it, and I mean, there's a couple questions.
Why Denver? Why Denver though?
It's in the middle of the country. I don't know.
Okay.
I don't.
All right. Well, do you even believe that the Illuminati exists, though? I mean, let's be honest.
Yes.
It's a medieval.
Yes.
You do, Brent?
I do too.
I do believe it. Okay.
I do.
Sean. So your favorite movie is those Brown movies, those Brown books. What are they called?
Those
where Tom Hanks runs around looking at
Da Vinci Code.
Da Vinci Code.
So, Da Vinci Code. Okay.
I don't. Do I think that it's what it's portrayed to be in the media? No. Do I think that there are groups? Do I think that there are groups of people who wield tremendous influence and power because of money? Yeah, I do think that there are some.
military-industrial
who
complex
knows?
right
I
there,
don't
my
know.
friends.
All
Right
I
there.
know
The
is
bankers,
that
Rothschilds.
power corrupts and money corrupts, and there are a lot of powerful people out there with a lot of money that wanted things to be a specific way. So,
okay. All right, let's move on. The world is flat.
Dumb.
Now, I've encountered more of those people lately on YouTube.
So dumb.
What the hell, man?
So dumb.
Okay.
No, there's been no sailor that was like.
I mean, I'm sorry.
There's no sailor that was like, we traveled for 4 days and then we hit the flip and we were on the other side.
So dumb.
I mean, you could do your own experiment. Just put a little Go camera in a rocket you create, shoot it up 200,000 feet, and it's pretty obvious it's not flat.
If you've ever,
I don't get it. I mean,
commercial flights are limited to between 35 and 40,000 feet, but if you fly in a private jet, you can go up to 50,000 feet. And so there have been times that I've been on, a private jet where we have been pretty high up, and you can see the dang curvature of the Earth. I'm telling you, you can see it when you're up that high. And especially if you're flying in the cockpit, because you can see everything. That's just one of the dumbest conspiracies ever.
I have yet to hear an argument that
all right. Well, I've got one that this is a juicy one, guys. This will make your Brit friends pissed off. So, Prince Charles is a vampire. I completely believe that one.
He sucks.
It sucks.
They say, you know why they say that? Because he wears those stupid top hats and he's never out in the sun.
He's pasty.
That's their claim.
He's never out in the sun because the sun is always pasty behind clouds in Britain. That's weird.
He is one of the Epstein child molesters.
Here's another one. Bigfoot is real. Sasquatch.
That's an odd one. I
don't know about that. Yeah.
That could be real.
Yeah,
that could be true.
Yeah, and I mean, it's definitely an interesting one that's been around for eons.
That's like the Loch Ness Monster.
What about the Loch Ness Monster? Yeah, I believe that one. That fisherman, I saw him on a show. He was serious, man. It was night, couldn't see anything. Something pulls his boat over the.
I think there's
definitely.
Never saw anything.
It's a sturgeon. You know how big those
big
things
sturgeon.
get? Oh my gosh! And they can live over 100 years.
Yeah, but I do think that there are.
What, Brent?
I do think that there's animals and creatures, especially in the deep parts of the ocean that we just don't know, and maybe every once in a while those get out and into a place like something like, I don't know. But I think that there's all kinds of little, look at Australia, for example. They got the freakiest animals down there, I think that there's just stuff out there that crossbreeds and whatnot that we're not sure of, like the pig man,
Yeah, no, it's true. There's a lot of those. Well, when we were growing up, I think the Bigfoot was a big one. I mean, they talked about that all the time, especially out in Washington and sometimes in Montana, because it gets a little more. You get a little more rural. So, do you think maybe it was just some 6'8" guy that was a hippie and hadn't taken a shower in a few weeks? I mean, that might be.
I think it was
very
Bill
hairy
Walton.
too. I know people like that.
On when he was taking vacation out smoking
by the Grateful Dead concert.
Yeah, Bill.
Yeah.
Or have you ever been up to Sturgis during that Hell Week with all the bikers? I mean, come on now.
Walking the magnificence of the Grateful Dead and the atrocities around, and stepped across the forest into the greatness of the depths of the pavement and the dirt upon my feet. And I looked to the right, and I saw a man with a camera, and I ran. I ran to the hills. It's my Bill Walton for you.
Wow, that's great.
It's my Bill Walton.
That's an Iron Maiden
song. Okay. The Nazis had a secret base in Antarctica. I actually heard that.
Why would that be so hard to believe? They had stuff all over the place.
I think everybody has one.
The one that's hard to believe is Hitler escaping to Argentina.
I don't know. That one's not so hard. There's a lot of Germans after
Right.
the
A lot
war
of Germans
that
in
But I
escaped to
I don't think
Argentina.
Hitler did. I know that I realize a lot of Nazis escaped South America, but I don't think Hitler did. So
Hey, he shaves
I
that
think it's more
mustache.
credible
Nobody would
than
know who
some
he is.
pyramid under Antarctica. Yeah, maybe. There was a book, a fictional book written about how Hitler's genes were, there were like 50 of his kids fostered in South America somewhere, and so some Hitler one of his sons are eventually going to take over and restore the Reich somehow, which I can't remember the name of the writer, but he was an American writer. It was a pretty popular book.
Makes
for
a good
while.
story.
But Sean, you're shaking your head. Why?
Makes a
you're
good
just
story.
laughing at the storyline. Yeah, I thought it was funny too.
Some of that
That's a good
fun,
story.
but it's crazy.
That's where I think a lot of these conspiracies come from.
Yeah.
Are stories.
Yeah.
Well,
that we tell each other.
look,
So,
okay. But back
Go
to
ahead.
it. Hold on, though. Back to his death and stuff.
Yeah.
It's kind of like the Bin Laden thing. Like we're told that the person died, but there's no
proof.
I mean, who knows? He could have escaped through a bunker and shaved his mustache and never been heard from again. I mean, there's a lot of unanswered questions is what creates conspiracy
Let me ask
theories.
you, let's talk about Bin Laden. Now, the rumor was the SEAL team that actually disposed of him on that beach.
No, he wasn't disposed
of his body.
On the beach. They dropped. It was a sea burial off of one of the aircraft carriers.
Right. Okay. That SEAL team, though, the rumor is the one that took him out supposedly all died. Is that correct? They died in a helicopter crash later?
There's a couple of them that died, but the whole team hasn't been killed.
So there's a conspiracy being tied into that, too. Okay. All right. Makes sense. There's conspiracies everywhere. Okay, this one would tie into that story theory that you had, Sean, or I also stated. We're all living in the Matrix, based on the Matrix, the movie. I think Musk was the one that brought this up. Remember a few years ago? He's like, "Oh, we're just in a simulation." Do you believe you're in a simulation?
If I were in a simulation, Sean? I'd be a lot wealthier and a lot better looking.
I was going to say, yeah, Brett.
Be the worst
NBA basketball star by now.
The worst simulation in histoy. The most boring.
This is simulation. It kind of sucks. Yeah. I was going to say this isn't. A
I'm angry that they made me think I had back surgery.
Yeah.
You didn't have it, Sean.
Things that could.
You didn't. Were you awake when it happened? Did you see it happen? No, you didn't. It didn't happen.
I've got a heck of a scar. I wish I could show you. I have
makeup.
Oh, here's the one that 5. This is one my dad actually was throwing around right when COVID first came out. I kind of had to laugh. 5G causes cancer and COVID-19. Yeah, I agree.
Hey, speaking of COVID,
I use 5G all the time.
How come, since I guess maybe one good thing from COVID is that it stopped all terrorist attacks. I mean, is it me or did all these bombings and all this stuff just stop? Like the Arabic people were like, "Oh, this virus is really bad. We got to stop doing that." No.
Well, maybe it just got them all. It was selective.
It was targeted towards terrorists.
Oh.
Hey, can we start our own conspiracy on that? I don't know. Can we spread something?
What's that? Yeah, absolutely you can.
COVID stops
That's how
terrorists.
Conspiracies get their wings, especially on a
terrorists.
podcast like this. All right, here's one. This is one that has been around for eons. And do you believe in mermaids, guys? Sirens were responsible for shipwrecks with sailors back in the time of discovery when they came and discovered America. Do you believe that or not?
I think that their stories.
No.
The stories come from a lot of sailors that are drinking a lot of rum.
Yeah, I'd agree. But
It's probably a
there are some
dolphin.
aquatic animals that,
Dolphins.
especially whales.
Dolphins.
Have you heard some of those whales and dolphin
Um,
sounds? Yeah. You think
you
it's a
do
dolphin?
know that I
Yeah.
am a diver, right? So yeah.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Yeah. So, is there a whale that can mimic
No,
human voice
no,
or
no. I
scream?
mean, it's
Okay.
No,
really. I mean, it's
but
amazing
several
to
times
hear.
we've
But
heard of. I mean, we've heard of dolphins saving people all the time.
yeah. So
Absolutely.
my understanding is that most of mermaid stories come from sailors that saw manatee. Uh, I've read things
Yeah.
that say that they believe origins of that are from sailors seeing manatee. And
Have you seen a manatee at the zoo
I've
though?
been in the
They
water.
look pretty. They're not the hot looking. They're not
They
hot looking. I'll say
You kind of
that.
look like a manatee. Uh,
I was gonna say, yeah.
you know
Got a
what?
few
You should go
characteristics
hop in
that
the
represent
pool
that.
and video yourself swimming around naked. Maybe somebody will think you're a
Yeah.
manatee. You're a mermaid.
I thought this was supposed to be PG-13, Sean. Now you're getting a little, making me uncomfortable. All right. Let's. There was one. I just totally forgot. Why don't you guys come up with one that wouldn't be on this list that you've heard or bannered around?
Boy, I don't know. I think you. I got a good one. The pyramids were power stations built, not only built by aliens, but they were. The purpose of them was to generate power for the ancient Egyptians.
I've heard several
That's
things
interesting. I hadn't heard that
about the
one.
pyramids. I've heard that, but I've also heard if you look at how the pyramids in Egypt are, and then the Mayan pyramids, and I want to say there's another group, but they form a linear line, like a almost like a diagram or a map or something along the lines, you know.
Yeah, there's pyramids not only in South America in Egypt, but they've been found in China. They're down in in Sudan. They're all over the world. So it's just yeah. I mean, when you get back when they were building
Well,
those things, what kind of technology did they have to build things straight up like we do now? The physics of it didn't work, you know. So the easiest thing to build, the most stable thing to build, would be a pyramid.
let me ask you a question: the origins of conspiracies, and then what historically we call mythology. I was just thinking of this. So maybe some of our conspiracies that we have today, maybe 500 years from now, will be a mythology. Do you guys?
Well, you think about the
that's
Crusaders, right? So you go into the Knights Templar. I mean, that's not that distant. So there's tons of stuff around the Knights Templar. So there's stuff that's going to be in 200 years. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the founding
I think.
fathers,
What about
the fact that they were all Masons. I mean, there's stuff about that. So
Brent, what were you going to say?
Well, I was going to say, and this maybe falls along the lines of a conspiracy that we haven't talked about, but you see on some of these, ancient alien shows, these hieroglyphics and stuff like that have like a burning ball or people flying and stuff like that, and
the
how aliens
helicopter in the
themselves had a
Egyptian
presence with the ancient people and stuff. Yeah, yeah, and I, that I think that's a very, very real possibility. I don't know if that's so much a conspiracy as it is. It might be something that actually happened, kind of like this Malaysian Airlines. Did you listen to the thing on Netflix about that Malaysian Airlines that went down, and what was it like 5-6 years ago? Like black boxes just don't disappear, People don't make phone calls, 10-15 minutes after you supposedly disappeared.
If it's 5 miles under the ocean, it's not going to be easy to find. I mean, the ocean is a pretty inhospitable place.
Blips,
we know more about the moon than we do about the depths of our oceans. So,
well, the reason why I was bringing the mythology and conspiracy, kind of mixing the two together, and this might be a little controversial to some of you. I'm religious. I'll put that out there right now. However, I do believe some of the stories we sometimes read about, if you look back historically, you can find them in many different religions, the same stories. Like, let's say the flood.
Oh, you talk about Gilgamesh.
Yeah. I mean, so mythology, history, conspiracy. I mean, that's one thing with the Bible. Let's take that, for example. Was Jeremiah really in a whale?
I think it was Jonah. And no.
Or Jonah. Sorry, I got my names. So you don't believe he really lived in a whale?
The physics of that are impossible. I think that I just think that there was a good.
I think that those stories were mostly made. They were made to create points, parables.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. All right. I kind of like that. Okay. So this is the question now. So are conspiracies a good thing for our culture? Are they something that keeps the real radical from doing something that would,
if anything, creates radical,
be bad for the culture
creates radicalism.
in general.
I think it's just mostly entertainment value.
It goes back to what I said. It goes back to what I said earlier in the show. Is there's a large segment of people that can be easily manipulated, and those people are people who don't question stuff. They don't ask why. They just settle for what they're told, and they go with it. And so, yes, I think that conspiracies are good because they are thoughts that are brought up from people who actively think about what if, why. They always ask why. Why this? Why that? Why wasn't this shown? What happened with this? And that's always a good thing, to have a segment of society that just doesn't accept the Fair Doctrine Act because we want to ultimately know and understand why something happened.
That's a good point. And the reason why I was going this direction with this line of questioning was recently I just heard it on the news that they were interviewing someone on the right, and he was saying it's kind of interesting how many of these conspiracies that Democrats claimed Republicans believed in the last couple of years have been coming true in terms of regards to the Biden administration and some of the things that are going on politically right now in this country. So I do think I agree with Brent. I agree with Brent. I think conspiracy is a good thing as long as it's not taken, Sean, like you're saying, to an extreme where
and there is a lot
create a radical in a sense that could cause, some sort of crazy death or, someone that goes shoots up a mall.
You could claim that some of the conspiracies out there are created so that you can get that lone nut job to go out and do things. So, I mean,
you're right.
I'm
that could be a possibility.
I'm not saying that that's
also
happening.
Fair it out.
I'm saying I think that can happen and easily manipulated.
True, but to expand on that, I also think that they could be thrown out there to make you look left while something's happening to the right.
Right. Yeah.
That happens a lot.
Yeah. Distraction. Sure. Absolutely.
So as our technology improves and some of these crazy things that you keep hearing in the news, just recently, the Chat GPT and this stuff that I did with Brent's voice earlier, do you think conspiracies are going to increase in intensity and sophistication, or do you feel like conspiracies are going to disappear?
If anything, I think that there's no way that they can do anything but increase. But in addition to that, it'll be easier to either prove or disprove them.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Brent, what do you think?
I agree. I think as we move more and more on, I think people, especially as new things come out about COVID, as new things come out about Biden, as new things come out about, Trump or, whoever, everybody starts to question more. They're like, well, wait a minute, you all said this, but this is happening. You guys guaranteed us that it was this, but no, this is what's happening. And there's a point when some things you can't hide the truth from. They're eventually going to appear. And that's when you start to see the diversions of look left while we take care of this to the right to clean that up. And so as long as I think we can agree that the three of us, we just don't accept stuff because we're told to. I think the three of us kind of sit back and gather thoughts, and we don't just ultimately look at the first meme that comes across Facebook and discern that that's the truth. Or, I like this whole Bud Light thing. I'm trying to figure out. Yeah, I'm trying to figure out why this is happening. Like, what is the purpose of this? However you feel about it, piece of crap, enjoy it, whatever. That's not what I'm talking. I'm talking about the real reason why this was pushed out at this particular time. I just there's something else behind the scenes.
Bud Light trying to create a conspiracy that their beer is good.
Well, a $6 billion loss now has kind of backfired in their face. So, but you know what I mean? It's just, you always have to stop and like you said, follow the money. Understand why why do we continue to give the Ukraine money? Why are there billions and billions of dollars being funneled in for money laundering? We have to just stop, and instead of panic and first reaction, let's think, all right, why and what? And those are the questions that have to be asked with everything now that comes across media.
These conspiracies keep people prepared, is what I guess I'm trying to say. That in the back of your mind, you're always, well, this could be true. I mean, Brett's whole theory about 9/11 and George Bush blowing up all the buildings. I mean, I'll be honest, it really pissed me off when I first heard it.
George didn't do it.
Way above him. Well, maybe he didn't do it, but the whole point that our government would actually kill American citizens, I mean, it frosted me when he first told me that. And then, 20 years later, I'm starting to go, would the government kill American citizens? Maybe.
Okay, I have a conspiracy
do I believe
theory
that
for you.
Completely? No.
I have one for you that we haven't talked about.
Yeah.
The world is past its human population allowance, and COVID was created to eliminate population, and vaccines were created to slow down reproduction and the population. And Bill Gates is
cull the population.
That's the Bill
words.
Gates theory.
Yeah. I was going to say it's a Bill Gates theory. Yeah, and he's on that list, by the way. I've heard that, Brent. And are we past sustainability on this planet? Let's answer that question first. Brent, what do you think?
Well, you could take the world population and put it in Texas.
I agree. Yeah. I agree that it's baloney. But we heard back in the early 70s on a 60-minute special from quote-unquote scientists that at that point the world had overachieved its human capacity. And at that point, I think the world population was like 3 billion. Well, it's doubled since then, and it's going to continue to increase and increase and increase. But like Sean said, you have whole areas of the Sahara Desert that are uninhabited. You have whole areas of Canada. I mean, you could fit, a billion people inside of Canada. There's space. I don't think it's a matter of space, though. It's a matter of resources.
You got to feed
people. How much water can we sustain? Yeah,
but
and
here's
stuff
the
like
deal.
that. So
there's constantly an evolution in the ability to grow new food. I mean, when back in the the 20s and 30s, 40s, the American economy was still an agricultural economy. It hadn't transitioned yet to a manufacturing economy, and since then, transitioned from manufacturing to services. It's the amount of food that they grow with less acreage, less people is mind-boggling. So that'll change.
Now, I do.
Yeah, I was thinking about this. I was thinking about this the other day.
I was going to say I do
Brent.
think that there is something to the amount of chicken farms and dairy farms that are just suddenly burning down. Like that just does not happen. I'm sorry. Just I can understand one, but when you have like 15, 20 that go down in a year, there's something behind that.
I agree with you guys. I don't think the Earth is in any danger of not being able to sustain 8 billion, 10 billion, I mean, maybe even 12 billion people if the technology improves. And I do think there are some challenges ahead. Fossil fuel versus
don't get me
new energy. Yeah, I mean, I think the wind energy and the geo energy and all that crap is crap. It's not going to. If it was going to sustain us, we would have already incorporated it.
Cobalt mines in
trying
Africa.
to force us
Cobalt
into
mines
it
in Africa.
is
all those kids.
Right. Well, I think the discovery of hydrogen energy, the ability to create some sort of nuclear
energy is already inexpensive and very, very safe. People that say that it's not are full of it.
Yeah.
I mean, Nikola Tesla.
My point, Sean,
Nikola Tesla could have powered the whole world off of nothing, for free. Rockefeller's bad.
It's the cost of manipulating these resources that are causing some major changes right now. And I think people like Bill Gates and some other industrial or financial people are trying to make some bucks off of this. And this whole drive to get rid of cattle. I mean, are there enough resources to sustain cows?
Yes, that's ridiculous.
And humans at the same time. Yeah, but they want us to eat beetles. They want us to eat bugs.
I'm gonna have to read up on some of that stuff because that's such a weird, strange. I don't understand it.
Yeah,
and you know what? I like beef.
Right. Well, I just think that I think government. Going back to conspiracy, I think people in general. I think governments. I think churches. I think we use conspiracy to manipulate public opinion, and those on the fringe, which as a whole causes. It either could be a good thing or a bad thing. Some people are labeled as conspiracists. And it makes the majority of people against that point of view. On the other hand, it can keep us from going over the edge in other areas too, like taking everybody's guns away. So I guess with conspiracy, I'm trying to tie back to that I think conspiracy has its place in our society and always will. And I purposely like a good conspiracy, especially one that can convince me to kind of believe in it. It's difficult because I like to tear everything apart. It's rare when I actually fall for it. So Brent's almost got me convinced that.
So that might be a good way to transition out of this. Who is there? Should we all just end this by? Is there a conspiracy that we believe in, or did we already do that?
Well, what's your favorite conspiracy? I don't know. Brent, what's your favorite conspiracy?
Oh boy, I mean,
don't tell me the moon landing.
And look, I mean, I'll be honest. 50% of me about the moon landing is joking. It's part of it thinks we did go there too, but I'm 100% convinced that 9/11 is not what we think it is at all. I'm 1,000% convinced.
Okay.
On that, and I have been from day one. It just does not fit and seem right. And the COVID narrative, again, not questioning whether COVID is bad, because it was terrible. But the real impact and the real reason behind COVID, I am not convinced at all that it is what we've been told.
Okay, fair enough. Sean,
my favorite one, or the one I believe in. I think I already said it. I do believe in the JFK conspiracy. I think the government had something to kill or something to do with it, or we're behind it. As far as entertainment goes, entertainment. So what's entertaining? I like
Tupac. Tupac is alive with Elvis.
Tupac's alive. Oh yeah, Elvis being.
There you go.
Yeah.
We missed the Elvis ones. Yeah.
There's Transformers.
Okay. Well, hey, one thing.
What about you, Carl? What about you, Carl? Did we convince you on any of these? Do we?
The only one that I've really been convinced on is the 9/11. That there was more to that. I think they're based on the WMDs. I think George wanted to revenge his dad. I think Iraq was always the target. That Afghanistan and the Taliban were just an excuse. I have a hard time believing anything George W. Bush says now at this point. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at on it. One thing I wanted to do, Bill, before we end the podcast today, guys, is I want to recognize a couple of our listeners. Specifically, we did get some feedback on one of our podcasts from last week. Glenn Newsom, he made a great comment, and I just wanted to make sure he got some recognition from that. He said, "Another fantastic episode. Thank you again for this." So, and I've had a lot of people privately tell me too that they've loved our podcast. They want us to keep going, and so there are people listening, boys.
Thanks, Glenn.
We really appreciate. Yeah, and we appreciate every one of our listeners. And so we thank you guys, and please leave some comments publicly. That helps get the word out. Please share our podcast with your friends, especially if they like listening to podcasts. And we're gonna have some interesting casts in the future. I did promise you some interviews. We do have some interviews coming up. So we have actually, Brent, you were talking to a couple people. There's a couple other people in our audience that we wanted to interview soon, and so there's going to be some fun things going on in the spring and summer this year on this podcast. So hey, thanks guys, it was fun today.
Yeah.
You have a good time?
Yeah, man.
I know we're
spreading the truth.
Yeah, so spread the truth. Yeah, baby.
Take care.
All right, guys. You guys have a great weekend.
Take care.